Okay, welcome. I'd like to call this July 13th, 2020 council meeting to order. If you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Confuses me. Someday we'll be back to the old.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even hear you. I am present.
Heffinger.
Here.
Lamb.
Here.
Rose.
Here.
Shields.
Here.
Simpson.
Here.
Coin.
Here. Reading of the minutes,
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields.
I move that the minutes of the regular meeting of June 22nd of 2020 as prepared and submitted by the clerk be approved.
Second.
Discussion on the approval of the minutes. Will the clerk please call the roll on the approval of the minutes?
Heffinger. Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Reports of standing committees. The Finance Committee met prior to this evening's council meeting, and we'll again meet 6 weeks from now unless we have an urgent meeting in between. Health, Safety, and Sanitation, Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled, nothing to report.
Public Properties, Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled, nothing to report this evening.
Special Legislation, Mr. Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing scheduled and nothing to report.
Streets and Sidewalks, Mr. Heffinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing scheduled at this time and no information.
Water and Utilities, Mrs. Hazeltine.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report at this time and no meeting scheduled.
Emerging Technologies, Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled, nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Request for council action. We have several for finance. We have 2145 budget amendments. 2146 CIT support and expansion project, one-time stipend for the police. 2147 increased expenditure for the CHIP grant, PO number 201395 absolute construction. 2148 expenditure over 15,000 for Sandra's JCG payment. 2149 purchase of a 2021 Mack front loader sanitation department. 2150 CARES Act funding. 2151 accept donation of face masks from Tempur Sealy International. 2152 accept donation of hand sanitizer from Alchem Inc. Addendum to 2138 City Hall parking deck contract adjustment. 2153 security cameras for the City Hall parking deck. 2154 bids for the 2020 concrete pavement joint ceiling job number 1068. 2155 grant application with Ohio Public Works Commission. 2156 mask mandate ordinance, and 2157 providing disposal face coverings for local businesses. Reports of municipal officers. Mayor Hamill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Related to the COVID-19, I'd like to thank the public for helping to reduce the spread by following the guidelines of social distancing, wearing masks in public, and avoiding large gatherings. For updated information on business openings, safety protocols, etc., they're on the city and the Medina County Health Department website. I'd like to encourage people to continue to support our local businesses. And on tonight's council agenda is a resolution that was passed at Finance earlier tonight, strongly urging the use of masks, that was submitted by Councilman Heffinger. And I would ask the public to please abide by that. And we're also putting together a PR program with all three cities in Medina County, the county of Medina, if the commissioners pass it tomorrow morning at 9:30, and the health department to, again, encourage those three things: social distancing, wearing masks in public, and trying to avoid large gatherings so that we can keep Medina County from going red like the three surrounding counties to our north, east, and west have already done. The new parking deck is coming along well. That was paid for with the $1 million capital grant from the state of Ohio, and they're now projecting the end of July as a completion date. They still have some punch list items to complete. I'd like to encourage the residents to complete the U.S. Census. It's very important that all residents are counted as we qualify for state and federal grants based on these numbers reported. The Medina Farmers Square is going at its 15th season and will run through October 17th. The market opens from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. for guests over 59 or those with immune-compromised issues, and then it opens for the general public at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. for regular shoppers. And the market is presented in partnership with the City of Medina and sponsored by the Cleveland Clinic Hospital. Due to the social distancing requirements and concerns for the safety of guests and vendors, the market has been reduced to roughly 20 full-time vendors and another 6 to 8 part-time vendors. A full selection of products will be offered. For more information and to see the customer shopping guidelines, in case you didn't catch all those, please visit the MedinaFarmersMarket.com or Medina Farmers Market on Facebook. And last but not least, I met with David Corrado from Medina Fiber with the group that's doing the fiber to the home. And again, they're encouraging folks to fill out the survey at www.medina.litcommunities.net. Their plan is to start very shortly in the Westfield, Seville, and Guilford area. They then have a strong interest in moving north through Montville Township, the City of Medina, and Medina Township, but that desire and need for customers is completed by completing this survey. Already the numbers are looking very good, and they're asking us to just continue our push and help in getting that going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huber, Law Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Patton, City Engineer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to give an update on our South Broadway project. Today we completed the soil stabilization. Next week they'll be preparing for the concrete pavement placement, which is expected to occur the week after that. We have notified the residents by mail that after the concrete placement, there will be a 5-day period where they will not be able to access their driveways. We will notify them again when we have a specific date, but we encourage anyone to notify us if they need special consideration or assistance during that period. We can do a lot to help them, but they should let us know. Secondly, the Public Square Mid-Block Crossing project is expected to start this week. That will require partial lane closures during the day. All lanes will be back open fully by 4 o'clock each evening. And again, that should only take about 2 weeks once it starts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Durham, Finance Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to remind residents that municipal tax returns are due on July 15th, same as the federal and state returns. And then there's a number of things that we talked about earlier that came from finance that we'll be talking about later.
Thank you, Chief Kinney, Police Department.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. McCauley, Service Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report for service. However, Mike Wright, the Rec Center Director, couldn't be in attendance tonight. Asked me to, we chatted with the mayor, some brief comments with respect to the Memorial Pool. Averaging 90 patrons per day at $5 per pass. His notes are, so that's $450 per day in passes and $45 per day in concessions. The expenses per day are $983. They're down about $488, but he writes that's for a great service to the community this summer. A note is that this does not include donations for operating or $500 donated for passes. Keith Durham, the Finance Director, will have those updated reports available on the totals, and he wanted to make sure that all the donors were thanked for their generosity in contributing to help reduce the total funds needed out of the rec center for the season. Thank you.
Thank you. Unfinished business. We have none. Introduction of visitors. Members of the public who are permitted the opportunity to speak on any issue or concern which pertains to the city during the portion of the council agenda devoted to introduction of visitors. All comments should be directed to the chair, and a reasonable time limit of approximately 5 minutes will be imposed. If there's a group, please appoint a spokesperson. Speakers should approach the rear right microphone and state their name and address so it can be entered into the minutes. Members of the public will be afforded the opportunity to comment on other portions of the meeting as determined by the chair by a vote of the majority of council members present. Is there anybody that wishes to address council at this time? Yes, Mr. Gold.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to address the resolution on racism. First of all, I think racism is a health issue. It's a mental health issue, because if you're going to be racist, there's something wrong. But to call it a health crisis, I'm not sure how you can put that in the correct context. I mean, for example, myself, I have type 2 diabetes, and it was because of poor life choices. I mean, I continue to do that. I can't pass Circles on the Square without going in and getting a couple of those donuts.
I hear you.
But it was a choice that I made. When it comes to the COVID virus, the National Health Institute had found that it's not a higher incident due to the ethnicity of a African American. It has to do a lot with the life choices, and that's eating habits and other choices that they've made. So to call it a health, a health emergency really doesn't state the problem. Again, I think what we're doing is we're bringing up symbolism over substance. To help this situation would involve more education, not money designated for a health crisis through Medicaid or Medicare. And as far as the city is concerned, again, it's a process that we're not resolving anything. We're saying words, and words do matter. So I agree with Mr. Rose, who brought up some points about the language in the resolution. I would like to see you seriously consider revamping that resolution and to really put some thought into it more towards an objective in resolving an issue instead of just naming it something. Again, we sometimes have a tendency to include symbolism over substance, and that's happened in quite a few pieces of legislation as of late. And what I'd like to see is a resolution that would help towards an end to a means, as opposed to just naming it a healthcare process or a healthcare crisis without any resolution. So when you come back from the summer break, I would hope council would consider this and maybe look at a different style of resolution and including a lot of the points that were brought up during your discussion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council at this time? Do we have any on Facebook, Kathy, or anything up there? None?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, introduction and consideration of ordinances and resolutions. I'd entertain a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on the following ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance 12620, Resolution 12720, Ordinance 12820, Ordinance 12920, Ordinance 13020, Ordinance 13120, Ordinance 13220, Ordinance 13320, Ordinance 13420, Ordinance 13520, Ordinance 13620, and Resolution 13720.
I will make a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings of tonight's ordinance and resolutions.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion on that? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Lamb,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Shields,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Coin,
Yes.
Hazeltine,
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Ordinance 12620, ordinance authorizing the increased expenditure to Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company for the sanitation department.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Pacoli.
Thank you, Mr. President. We started the year in sanitation with a $15,000 PO. In order to get through the year, we're asking to increase this by $30,000 for a total of $45,000.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comment? Will clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Rose,
Yes.
Shields,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Coin,
Yes.
Hazeltine,
Yes.
Heffinger,
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Ordinance 12620 passes 7-0.
Resolution 12720, resolution authorizing an application for grant assistance from the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, for the Medina Municipal Airport Obstruction Removal Study.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Patton.
Thank you, Mr. President. For some time, the FAA has notified the city of the need to complete this obstruction study. They have offered a grant to cover for the cost of that study. The grant amount is $150,000.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comment? Will the clerk please call? Oh,
I have
Mr.
an
Huber?
additional comment. In order to explain why this is happening, the FAA has shut down the instrument approach to the west end of the Medina Airport. The reason for that is trees penetrating the glide path of an airplane that's on an instrument approach. It's a expensive kind of survey and examination as to what remedy. One of the remedies will involve probably readjusting the lights that guide an airplane in, and the angle of the lights, and exactly what has to be done is the analysis is somewhat expensive, and that's the reason for this grant.
Thank you. Any further comments? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the resolution?
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Resolution 12720 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 12820, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into task order number 5 of the agreement with Delta Airport Consultants, Inc. for professional services at Medina Municipal Airport relative to the FAA obstruction and removal study.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Patton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Referencing the last resolution regarding the grant, this is to hire Delta Airport Consultants to complete this study for us.
Thank you. Any further comments or discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Ordinance 128-20 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 12920, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Medina, Ohio, certifying that when a municipal obligation was incurred, sums were lawfully appropriated in the funds to satisfy the obligation, and sufficient funds or sums currently exist to satisfy this obligation.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause and the ordinance. Mr. Durham?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is in relation to an emergency repair of the rail line. It was not planned for because we can't plan for a break on the line. And the emergency clause is requested because the work has already been done. We need to pay the vendor.
Any further discussion on the ordinance and or the emergency clause? Will the clerk please call the roll on the approval of the emergency clause?
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Ordinance 129-20 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 13020, an ordinance extending the agreement with Partner Marketing LLC relative to finding sponsorships to the place inside the Medina Community Recreation Center.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Simpson?
Mr. President, the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it at this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the ordinance and emergency clause. Mr. Pacoli?
Thank you, Mr. President. So the contract, one-year extension request due to COVID, the rec advisory could not meet to approve the contract, which is a 3-year term, and it expired. So the rec center director is asking to extend the contract for 1 year while the program is reviewed by the rec advisory. The emergency clause is needed as the contract is already expired. The rec advisory recommended this on June 18th of 2020.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the emergency clause and or the ordinance?
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
ultimately, this benefits my employer, so I'll need to abstain on this ordinance.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comment? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause?
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Abstain.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Motion passes 6 yeas, 1 abstention.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Abstain.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Ordinance 130-20 passes 6 yeas, 1 abstention.
Ordinance 13120, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for competitive bids and award a contract to the successful bidder for a detention basin, project number 947 at the Medina Municipal Airport.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Patton?
Thank you, Mr. President. For some time, we've been under the burden of adding this detention basin. This is required for projects completed in the past and projects that will be done in the future to manage the stormwater runoff that is generated from the airport. We did apply and were successful in getting a commitment for a grant from the Stevenson Foundation. I believe, Greg, it's 33%, a third of the project. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
A third of the project costs will be paid for by that grant.
And
Thank you. Mayor Hamel?
if I could, sir, I'd just like to thank the both Don Mish and Rick Stevenson from the Stevenson Foundation. Jim and I also serve on there, but obviously both of us had to abstain. So Mr. Huber and I both went out and spent some time at the airport with Don and Rick to show them exactly what was going on, what was needed. And the fact is, the last hangar that was built, we made a commitment to do this because at the time there were FAA funds, and now they will no longer let us use the FAA funds for this. And there is an interest in building additional hangars, which will help pay us back for the fuel system we put in. But again, until the detention basin is in, we're not permitted to do that. So this is a great help, and I would appreciate council's passage.
Thank you. Any further comments or discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Ordinance 131-20 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 13220, ordinance amending ordinance number 6220 passed March 18, 2020 relative to section 91703B2 of the codified ordinance of the City of Medina, Ohio, extending the date of the suspension of water service disconnections resulting from COVID-19 pandemic to July 31st, 2020.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add this now.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause and the ordinance. Mr. Durham?
Thank you, Mr. President. As it states in the title, this extends the suspension of water service disconnections to July 31st. The emergency clause is requested because it's retroactive to June 30th and needs to take effect immediately.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comment? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause?
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Ordinance 132-20 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 13320, ordinance amending section 91706 of the codified ordinance of the City of Medina, Ohio, relative to late payment penalties of utility bills.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields.
the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it at this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause in the ordinance. Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance waives penalties for late payments in the months of March, April, May, and June due to COVID. The emergency clause is requested because it's retroactive to March and needs to be effective immediately.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the ordinance and or the emergency clause? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause?
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Ordinance 133-20 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 13420, ordinance amending chapter 917 of the codified ordinance of the City of Medina, Ohio by the addition of new section 91713 relative to COVID-19 related service disconnections.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
the emergency clause has been requested, and I also believe that we might need to modify this one slightly, but I'll let Mr. Durham explain that first.
Thank you.
And my second's going to include the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause in the ordinance, Mr. Durham.
Thank you. The amendment that we need, first of all, is to section C. Per our discussion at the finance meeting, we should add to the end of that sentence, if the account, it says now if the account is terminated, it should say if the account is terminated 3 times during the repayment. So what this does is it creates a payment plan, so any customers who are shut off when we begin doing shutoffs again, when they're on that list, they can get a 12-month payment plan, and there are some stipulations that are explained in here. They need to contact the finance department. So people watching need to know that, and for all your constituents, they need to know it won't be automatic because they need to contact us to say they want to be on a payment plan. We'll put them on the payment plan. The delinquent amount will be spread out over 12 months. And then penalties won't apply to those payment plan amounts, but if their account is terminated 3 times during the repayment, then on the third one, the payment plan will be terminated and they'll have to pay the entire amount. And then the next ordinance talks about some help we're going to give them at the end of that. But so we urge people to get a hold of us and we'll work out these payment plans for them.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to amend the ordinance to include what Mr. Durham talked about the third disconnection, the payment plan is terminated?
I'll change my motion to modify ordinance 134-20.
And my second also includes the modification and second on the emergency clause.
Okay, so we're going to vote on 3 different things. We're going to vote on emergency clause ordinance and the amendment. So will the clerk please call the roll on the emergency clause?
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the amendment to the ordinance?
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
The amendment passes 7-0.
And will the clerk please call the roll on the ordinance as amended?
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Ordinance 134-20 passes 7-0 as amended.
Ordinance 135-20.
Mr.
ordinance
President?
oh,
Excuse me for a moment. We had a comment that you were supposed to read a comment of a resident during Dolly Yowler from Dolly Yowler during the visitors, and she would like that read before we vote on the mask.
Oh, at the end? Okay, I apologize. You are correct. Okay. Ordinance 135-20, an ordinance authorizing expenditure not to exceed $8,750 to pay $25 towards delinquent utility accounts occurring March through June 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields.
the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause in the ordinance. Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance will set aside money to give each resident who has delinquent amounts once we resume service terminations and gets on those payment plans we discussed before. This will pay $25 towards the final payment on that payment plan.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comment? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance? Of the emergency clause, I'm sorry.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Ordinance 135-20 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 136-20, an ordinance amending ordinance number 187-19 passed November 25th, 2019, amendments to the 2020 budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are 4 amendments to the budget. The first 2 are donations that are passed through, so we appreciate the donations from Firestorm and from the Dowds, I believe it was, for the mountain bike trail. And then the third amendment is to one of the court funds. It's the Municipal Court Probation Fund, where they collect that money from court fees and then use it for probation services. And the final one is we received an insurance check for damage to traffic signals.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the ordinance? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Ordinance 136-20 passes 7-0.
At this time, I'd entertain a motion to add resolution number 137-20.
I'll make a motion to add resolution 137-20 to tonight's agenda.
Second.
Any discussion on adding Resolution 13720, which is a resolution that strongly urges the citizens of the city of Medina, Ohio to wear facial coverings, social distance, and sanitize their hands to limit the spread of COVID-19 and declaring emergency? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll on adding ordinance 13720?
Coin.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
So we have a resolution number 13720, a resolution that strongly urges the citizens of the city of Medina, Ohio to wear facial coverings, social distance, and sanitize their hands to limit the spread of COVID-19 and declaring emergency.
Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion? I guess you have to add the emergency clause on it.
Mr. President, at this time, I'll move to add the emergency clause.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause and the resolution. I guess, Mr. Heffinger?
Sure. This is not a mandate. This is us strongly urging our citizens to follow these three main factors that help stop or slow down the spread of COVID-19. And that is wearing a facial covering, social distancing, and sanitizing your hands frequently. This is science-backed. The health department here in Medina, the health department for the state of Ohio, and the CDC all recommend these things. And we want to make a strong, clear message to the citizens of Medina that these are things that we are asking you to all partake in. And the ultimate goal here is not that we stay home and hide. It's that we are active members of our community that help our businesses, that frequent them, but that we also take care of each other.
Mr. Coyne?
Thank you. Mayor Hamwell?
Thank you. So it was my pleasure to work with Councilman Heffinger to work out this resolution. And as a result of those discussions, I also had the opportunity to reach out to the city manager of Brunswick, the mayor of Wadsworth, Colleen Swedick, who is one of the 3 Medina County commissioners, and Krista Wasowski, who's our health commissioner. And collectively, the group has agreed, subject to the Medina County Commissioner's approval at tomorrow's 9:30 meeting, to do a blanket PR promotion of these same 3 factors: social distancing, wearing masks, and sanitizing hands. And it shows stronger, in my opinion, to do this countywide, because Cuyahoga County, Summit County, and Lorain County have all been deemed red already by the governor's office, and there is a mandate on masks. And if we can keep our numbers from increasing, we can avoid that from occurring here. So we're trying to keep the whole county from going red. And when Councilman Heffinger and I talked about this, the idea of just having it limited to the city, and then somebody just step over the city borders and not be subject to that, A, could have an adverse impact on the businesses, and B, just didn't achieve the same goal that we were hoping for, and that is increased use across the county, because it affects each and every one of us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm still trying to search for Dolly Aller's email, and I apologize. She did send it, and I forgot to print it out when I came to the meeting, and hopefully she could resend it while we're on the talking to her right now, so I could read it into the record so we can all have that. So bear with me 1 minute. I just want to check one more place to see if I could find that. So bear with me a second. Sorry to delay everybody. This is all my fault because I didn't print it out.
Was it sent to anyone else besides Mr. Coyne?
I don't think so. She sent it to me just to read it into the minutes.
Okay.
So I am looking real quickly. I thought I would have it in my email, but I may find it here shortly. I believe it was on Wednesday, so almost there. I know she wanted. Did you get a hold of her? want to make sure I get it into the minutes if I can find it.
While we're waiting, I'll just go over what I talked about briefly in finance when we discussed this. I wanted to direct people to section 10 of the urging mask usage, and it says, in keeping with the City of Medina's community spirit and welcoming atmosphere, all individuals that visit our historic square and patronize our businesses are strongly encouraged to be kind to one another. Though it may be difficult for everyone to wear a mask at all times, the City of Medina encourages everyone to respect each other in this difficult time. We added this in there because I think it's very important that we're all very stressed. Things keep changing around us on a daily basis, but we need each other to be kind to one another. We don't need to start interrogating people on why they are or are not wearing a mask. We just need to trust that that is the best decision they have made for themselves. Maybe that's a health reason, where that could be physically or mentally, or why they are wearing a mask. Maybe they have someone at home that they're taking care of that's very sick. We don't really know the answer to these things, so it's, can we take care of each other in the best way? I've also included in this ordinance, this resolution, the importance of social distancing and sanitizing of hands. We know that even if you do not have a mask, you can still perform those other things. So we ask that with all three things combined is the strongest, but do it as you can to help bring our numbers down here. Any luck?
Yes, I got it. It's just downloading. Sorry about that. She just sent it to my other email here, so as soon as it downloads here, which I think it did. Yes, it did. Okay. Sorry about the delay. Come on, download. This is from Dolly Aller, a resident of the city of Medina, on a mandating mask. She wrote something on mandating. It's still downloading. I'm sorry. Wish it would download faster, but. Okay, here we go. This is from Dolly Aller. I am happy to read in the July 9, 2020 edition of the Medina Gazette that mayor is not in favor of mandating mask wearing. Even when the governor was going to mandate it for the state of Ohio, he reversed his decision. Council people Heffinger, Hazeltine, and Lamb seem to want to involve too much government in the city of Medina. I personally have asthma, and when I am required to wear a mask entering medical facilities, my BP skyrockets. But my biggest issue is feeling like I am literally suffocating. Doctors are very busy now, and they don't have time to have added issues, notes to people to prove that they are medical issues and that they're affected by mask wearing. I realize that some people have stated they don't like going into a store when they see people are not wearing masks. That can work both ways. People may not go into a business such as a grocery stores if masks are mandated. I, for one, will travel further, which would be sad since I like to support our local businesses. There are too many unknowns about the virus. Even doctors will tell you that the antibody tests are not reliable yet. Also, the tests for COVID-19 have been known to show false negatives and false positives. Many people have other underlying medical conditions that may have been their cause of death, yet reported as COVID. My big question I have asked, and no one seems to know the answer, is if a mask are helping so much, why is it that the numbers were the highest for people living in nursing homes during the beginning of this crisis? Nursing home residents have to wear masks all the time unless they are in their rooms alone. They have not been allowed to have visitors or leave the facilities unless for medical reasons. The staff that is coming and going is also required to wear masks. So there are people who are basically isolated, wearing masks all the time, are one of the greatest amount of people who were getting COVID. If anything is enforced, it should be the social distancing. Nationwide, it seems that the places that are increasing in most cases are the larger cities and where people are close together at bars and restaurants. It doesn't make sense to wear a mask at a restaurant with people having to take their mask off in order to eat their food. Plus, in my opinion, the way people are always touching the mask, it doesn't keep them very sanitary. People touching things and then touching their mask seem like people touching other things and then touching their faces. Most people probably wouldn't even be touching their faces that much if they didn't keep adjusting their mask. Some people might just be against being told they have to wear a mask, but please remember, there are other people who have medical conditions who are able to still go out and do things on their own. Grocery stores who offer shopping online, curbside pickup, were backed up for weeks for orders That last I know. You shouldn't prevent people from doing their own grocery shopping just because of a mask issue. The stores are doing extra cleaning anyway, thus a better idea would be to have some hours for those who don't wear masks. There are other ways around mandating a mask. And as you know, this was Dolly Aller sent this when there was an issue that we were going to do about mandating masks, but we just passed a resolution encouraging masks. So Dolly, I apologize for not reading that sooner, but I'm glad I got it into the record. Is there anything else that needs to come before the resolution discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll on the emergency clause?
Yes.
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 Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the resolution?
Yes.
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 Yes. Council comments. Ms. Heffinger?
Real quickly, I just want to thank you, Mr. President, for helping me with the language and writing this. I want to thank Krista Wazowski for continuously talking to me over the past couple weeks about this. And I want to thank the mayor for sitting down with me and I think hopefully coming up with something that's a little bit stronger when we work with the other communities. So thank you all.
Any other council comments?
Mr. President?
Mrs. Hazeltine?
Tonight, I'd like to take a page out of Denny's book, not for lack of originality, but for necessity of repetition. Be kind. This past week, that sentiment seems to have been forgotten as people rush to take sides and politicize a public health issue. I campaigned really hard for this position so that I could improve the quality of life for all of the residents of Medina. Not to see individuals call each other vile names and create further division in our city. The outpouring of negativity and downright hate on social media was astounding. People sit behind a keyboard and they forget all human decency. 2 individuals actually shamed me for living in a home so small that I had to participate in online council meetings from the privacy of my bathroom, the only room in my home that is not a bedroom that has a door. I have 2 children, 2 dogs, and a husband who don't deserve to be silenced while I do a 3-hour council meeting. Is that what we've come to? We're shaming and we're name-calling? We're calling good, honest, and hardworking people out for doing the best they can with what they have to serve their community. I'd like to thank the people that remained calm, and a lot of those people were in opposition to what Mr. Heffinger, Mr. Lamb, and myself were proposing. They expressed their opinions to me in a respectful way, and their opinions are important and an extremely valuable part of what creates a fair and balanced local government. So right now, I'd like to take a moment, and everyone to take a moment, to reflect back on the past few weeks. And I'll wait, because I really want you to think about this for a minute. Are you proud of what you see? Are you proud of the words that you've shared with the public? I know that I've made some mistakes. But tonight, I ask that everyone take those thoughts and energy and think about how you can use them to better yourself and to better our community. It's been said that it takes a village. This is our village. Let's unite and work together to keep it a place that we're proud to call home. I would also like to put a plug in, as I do every week, for Coffee with Bill and Jess. We have a very exciting guest this Thursday. Krista Wazowski will be coming. And as always, just like on the council meetings, you are free to log on at 10:30 on Thursday to Medina TV. And you can ask Ms. Wazowski any questions you would like regarding the services offered by the health department, the COVID-19. If you want to ask her about masks, all those opportunities will be available to you Thursday at 10:30 on Medina TV. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council comments?
Go ahead, Bill.
Mr. Lamb?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have a couple things. First of all, because this is the kind of the topic of the moment, was the mandatory mask ordinance, which I was in favor of and still would have preferred. But one way to look at the result is that if Councilman Heffinger had not taken a lead in this, then the proposed mandatory mask ordinance would never have morphed into the resolution and the effort to make the push for people to wear masks go county-wide. And of course, I would hope there'd be a positive impact to that. So when you criticize one thing, which was the origin of this, it's important to understand that that origin played out into something else that is important. And without the original initiative, it would appear to me that none of this would have happened. Further, sometimes things that seem controversial or difficult may be controversial and they may be difficult, but they may also be really important. And in my opinion, there is nothing more important than health. Not the economy, not politics, but health. It is the most important thing. I watched the news before I came to City Council, and it was interesting because on the news show it was talking about the increase in COVID infections in the state. But what caught my attention was the next comment from the newscaster, which was only 6 people had died. And it wasn't 6 people that died that caught my attention. It was the word only. Only 6 people had died. Well, what if you knew one of those people that died? What if you were related to one of those people that died? The word only probably would never enter your vocabulary. It would be devastating. So when you look at wearing a mask, that can help, not guarantee, but can help to spread COVID-19, what you are doing is hoping not to be a person who might infect somebody that could be one of those onlys. And that matters. So for me, if I wear the mask all the time, if everybody wore a mask, I'd be willing to wear the mask if it saved one person's life during the entire pandemic, because certainly that one person's life would matter. And when we talk about the difficulty of wearing the mask, there are always exceptions for people that have medical reasons why they cannot. But I was reminded of talking to my grandfather before he died, who frequently spoke about his experience in the First World War and the gas mask that he had to wear and how difficult that was. And my father, who talked about when he fought in the Second World War and had a gas mask that when he wore it, he perspired so much inside that it filled up and he had to swallow his perspiration in order not to let it, to put his finger in to make it leak out. Those are difficult things to do. And when you look at soldiers today and you look at what they wear today, that's a lot of stuff to wear. So I believe that if it can help to save someone's life, this little piece of material that I've got on my face should not be called into question. It's a really easy thing to do. Maybe because I'm older, I remember the polio, when polio did not have a vaccine, when I was in school, and in summers I couldn't swim. I couldn't put my hand on a railing. Nobody seemed to know where it came from. My mother was never sure, but she was very cautious because she didn't want any of her children to get polio. And once the vaccine became prevalent and used, it didn't become such an issue. But everybody cooperated in order to ensure that you didn't get it. And that's what we need to do today, I think, is to recall those kinds of behaviors. And as Councilwoman Hazeltine said, we need to talk to each other in a different vocabulary. My father was a Republican and my next door neighbor was a Democrat. And I'm positive that neither one of them ever had a cross word with each other, and certainly not in any manner of the things that I read in the past week. So just to cover a couple of issues, I asked the law director to respond for me with the accusations that have been made in emails and letters that I received, and they reminded me of some of them that I received when we were working to pass the LGBTQ legislation. And it was that these accusations that the mask ordinance amounted to a violation of human rights, would make the city liable for false hope, and constitute an infringement upon the rights of Americans and constituents, constitutions, that the legislation is outside of my oath of office to uphold the laws of the United States and the Constitution of the United States. That effort to pass a law in order to protect people's health was a violation of our oath of office, a violation of the Constitution of the United States. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the summation was that the proposed ordinance legislation does not place you outside of our oath of office. It's interesting what people write and what people say, I guess, and how people put all those thoughts together, when it simply is to protect other people in our own community, which anybody, most people know living in a democracy. When you live in a democracy, you have to assume a lot of responsibility because we have a lot of freedom, and that freedom means we need to be responsible and think about other people. And if that includes wearing a mask, I hope other people will wear one, but I know I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Simpson?
Just be kind to one another. Thank you.
Thank you, Denny. Anything else? Mr. Rose?
Summer.
All right, we'll be back. And you can watch reruns if you like, but we'll be back at the end of August. Hopefully it'll be reruns of the council meeting so you can enjoy us while we're on break.
You will still
Thank you.
get
Have a great
coffee
break.
with Bill and Jess every week.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry I forgot that. We do have a budget meeting, our final one during break on Wednesday at 5:30 if you want to watch it. Hopefully that'll be a good rerun for that one to watch all over summer. So have a good summer. Thanks.